Okay, it's recording. Cool. What's up, guys? How are you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of the Player vs. Life podcast. As always, my name is Gabo and I will be your host. Let me introduce to you this next guest. He is an esports caster and game analyst, mostly known for his work on Starcraft 2, one of the oldest and most played competitive games in esports history. He's super experienced, having casted and participated in professional tournaments around the world for at least 8 to 9 years. He's had an incredibly hard journey, fighting tooth and nail to make a name for himself and to become, in my opinion, one of the best casters out there. It was super inspiring to me to hear his story as somebody who's chasing his own dreams and learn about the struggles and challenges that he had to go through to become successful and to be where he is today. Please, without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Nathanias. But dude, I'm actually super excited to have you here because I've actually been following you since probably like 10 years ago. It's like a crazy story.
It's been a while, huh?
It's been a long time. And recently, for some reason, I've gotten back into the habit of playing some Starcraft, watching some Starcraft. Just catching you on the recent Intel Extreme Masters was just like refreshing to me, like to still see you there, like casting and, you know, doing such a great job, obviously. What have you been doing over the past year, and how has this crazy year been for you?
I mean, everything in 2020 was just crazy, right? I've been streaming for, I'm going to hit 10 years that I've been doing that in August. The stream stuff's been crazy because I've been doing way more of it than I normally do. I've been trying a lot of different things. Towards like 2018, 2019, I joined a talent agency for like commentary and stuff.
Okay.
So I was working on a lot of different events. Like almost every week, I was doing like Twitch Rivals, or I was flying out for PAX. I actually wasn't streaming as much in 2019 because I spent almost half of every month out of town somewhere doing something. When they stopped having events, when they canceled everything, I was like, man, I haven't actually been doing the 7 hours of streaming every single day. I haven't actually been doing that kind of work. I haven't been doing it like that in a long time. So it was crazy. It was really hard. I got so burnt out trying to just keep things moving and all this pandemic stuff. And last 6 months, I've found a much better balance. Part of what makes all of this really fun to do is going out and seeing people, right? It's going to the events, meeting the fans or meeting the players, going to see them go on the big stage and win. So it's awesome that we have ways to make things happen, like the online IEM Katowice that we did. But it would have been so much cooler if we were all there, right?
Oh yeah,
And
of course.
that's I'm really missing that sorely in my heart.
I guess, like I was telling you a little bit, I was an architect in New York, and man, my soul was draining. My soul was getting drained out of me working for the man, you know. Some people got to experience the bad side of 2020, but me, I basically said, okay, well, I can't really work as an architect right now anymore, so I'm just gonna give it all to be able to do what I want to do, right? And started podcasting, started streaming, and it's been it's really rough. It's very emotionally draining sometimes, and you have to have a lot of perseverance and want it, really want it. I finally managed to get it all together to like start reaching out to people, and I don't know what it was, man, but when we scheduled the podcast, I had this crazy dream that like we became like super close during this podcast. And when I started researching you, I also saw that, is your birthday February 25th? Because my birthday is also February 25th. So it's kind of crazy.
It's destiny.
It's like this cosmic fucking connection right here. What is your kind of history with video games? Did you started playing video games when you were really young?
So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. My parents were they had like a Nintendo when they were having like me and my brothers. I'm a middle child. We're all very close in age, but my mom had a Nintendo. First computer game I ever got into, my dad came home with a copy of Diablo when I was like 7 years old.
Nice.
So yeah, so we played Diablo together. He's the one that got me into PC gaming a really long time ago. We had like this crappy little compact Presario PC that just it couldn't really do anything, but it could play Diablo, like that kind of computer. It could play Starcraft Brood War eventually later on. I played tons of that. So I got into gaming at a really young age. My godfather gave me like a PlayStation when I was little, and I played Metal Gear Solid and Castlevania and all that. So I've been gaming my whole life. Diablo was kind of how I made it into StarCraft though, because I played that for like 6 years, and then my dad's like, "Yo, they have this game too," and that kind of what started everything for me.
That's crazy, man. That your parents actually introduced you to video games. That's not a common story that you actually hear. Did you have like young parents?
Yeah, so I'm a first generation American. My dad immigrated from the Soviet Union when he was like 10 years old with his father, and they moved to New York. He met my mother, I think, in high school. They fell in love, they got married. My dad had a really good job. He was doing like carpeting and tile work at all sorts of places in New York. My mom, I think, worked as like a desk clerk or something for a dentist's office or whatever, but my dad is only 52 right now. So, yeah, so they had us, I think they were early 20s. My mom passed away in 1997, so it was a really long time ago. But I mean, we had all of this Mario stuff and like Nintendo, Super Nintendo and everything cuz yeah, I guess they were young and hip, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't seem that weird to me for my parents to be how I got into gaming, but I guess that's not the story for a lot of people, huh?
Most of the things that they say is like, oh, if you spend this time like playing guitar, or like learning something different. Actually, how I got into video games was my brother, I think, had to play my dad on table tennis and had to beat him. If he beat him in table tennis and ping pong, he would get him a Super Nintendo, So
Nice.
that's how he got his drive to be good at ping pong. And then I just enjoyed playing Final Fantasy, Super Mario. This is probably the youngest memory I have by playing video games was getting back home from like first grade and just like turning on my SNES and playing Super Mario for like hours until my parents got home and told me to get off. They kind of understood your passion for gaming, right?
It kind of started with them, right? We had games in the house when we were little kids, when we were little babies. I mean, my dad's rule growing up was he said, "Well, as long as you're not," he's like, "You guys can do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy." But he's like, "If you're gonna play a lot of games, then you guys have to do sports." So we all played sports. Me and my two brothers, we were all. The nice thing about growing up with as a middle child was there's a lot of competition between the three of us
Right.
as we were all within like 3 years of age. We all are within 3 years of age of each other. So we were very competitive with everything, including sports and video games. It just kind of balanced out well. He's like, "Yeah, if you guys want to play video games all night, that's fine, but you're gonna do 2 hours of football practice first because he's like, I don't want you guys to be couch potatoes." I got into mock trial like as I was graduating high school the last couple of years. It was a lot more about like debate, presenting arguments in front of a group of people and being able to defend them. And I really liked that. I really like talking in front of people. For me, there was nothing more thrilling than like standing up in front of a group of people, saying something, having someone try to argue with me, and then shutting them down like right in front of the judge. Like that was like my jam. I think one of the most important things that I did for getting into the commentary side of thing because I had way before I was casting or doing streaming. I was really, really trying hard to be good at the public speaking thing already. Penn State was pretty one of the most competitive universities in the US for mock trial. Just fake courtroom trials, basically.
Right, right. Oh, that's very interesting actually because looking at your stream, man, I don't know how you do it, but it's like StarCraft, you're like a gold streamer tuning to your stream, and I'm like, dude, this guy's a GM in streaming. Arguing with his chat while playing Masters League StarCraft. It's amazing, dude. It's actually pretty entertaining. So how did you actually end up starting streaming?
It's kind of an interesting story. I've had a lot of crazy things happen to me in my life. I started streaming when I got my computer. So in 2009, this is like a slight tangent, but in 2009, my house burned down, and
Whoa.
we were like really poor at that point in my life. Like I didn't actually have a computer or anything. I was using like a little crappy laptop that I got for playing like Brood War and stuff. But I was mostly just going to school, trying to survive kind of deal. My school ended up raising money for me, but they were like, "Hey, you're a nerd guy. We got you some money if you want to have like a computer or something for school, because you're going to be graduating and whatnot." And I made my first PC with that. When I went to college, I suddenly had all this free time, and I was like, well, there's actually good internet here. I had already been watching a little bit on Twitch, or well, I wasn't Twitch at that time. It was Justin.tv. I had already been watching guys like the Muslim and TLO because they were playing the beta
Mm-hmm.
for Starcraft 2. And I was so excited about Starcraft 2. I
Yeah.
was like, I freaked out. Me and all my friends, my little core group I had in high school, we were super Starcraft nerds. I got suspended from high school for playing Starcraft on the school computers because we had finished all of our homework and the substitute teacher was mad at us. Uh, but anyway, yeah. So I started streaming in college like that because I was like, oh yeah, I have a really good computer. I can play games, and well, wouldn't it be cool if I was like, I'm gonna try to get good at StarCraft and stream this? I want to see how high up I can get. Like, can I get to Masters League in 2 years or something like that? And yeah, that was really where it all started.
Damn, Justin TV, dude. Oh my god, that is so long ago. Like if I look at my Twitch account, it's like 10 years old. I wish I could have gotten into streaming back then, like when it started, when you started, man.
And it was still really hard too. That went nowhere for me for a really long time as well.
I think you also had aspirations to become a pro gamer, no?
Yeah, so it was all originally motivated by my friends making fun of me because I couldn't beat them at StarCraft, right? That's where it always starts. My friend Mitchell, he and I were usually like the best gamers in our group of friends, but I would always beat him. Like whatever it came down to, I could always find a way to beat him. If it was in Smash or Halo, like we played everything. And then one day he's like, "Yeah, I'm platinum in StarCraft," and I couldn't beat him anymore. And I was like, "Okay, this is just messed up." Obviously I need to learn how to play the game so I'm not losing to my friend anymore. I hit platinum in a month of trying, and then I got to diamond like 2 months later. So I was like, "Oh my god, I've made it from gold to diamond in like 4 months of just basically only playing StarCraft all summer long." And I was like, "Wow, I can't believe that I'm in Diamond League." I streamed to like maybe 4 or 5 people for like 7 months, and I got raided by Maximus Black from Lag TV at like 2 in the morning on one random night. I had hit Masters League at that point. I was doing like weird strategies because I was still terrible at the game. I was like bottom of the barrel masters. But yeah, that's when the stream started to kick off a little bit, and people were like, "Well, you should go to events and do this." And I was like, "I have no idea what's going on. Strangers from the internet are buying me plane tickets to go to Anaheim to compete in a video game. Like, I don't know what's happening." If anybody from the StarCraft community is watching this, then like guys like Panic Switched, who've helped a bajillion different streamers across the years. He was the guy that was like, yeah, no, so I have no problem with I know your son's never been on a plane before. He's like, I got this. It's gonna be okay. And my dad's like, I guess this is your dream, so go for it. Just be smart. Yeah, that's where it initially was. The opportunity for casting didn't come for. I mean, really, it was about another year, honestly, before that ended up happening.
When it comes to StarCraft or just being a pro gamer, you don't just have to be better than your friends. You have to be top 0.001%. And to get to that level, the amount of practice and the amount of diligence that you have to go through, it's almost like you're a CEO of StarCraft. There's probably more CEOs than there's pro gamers in the world, And I make that
I have no doubt. I have no doubt in that.
I make that comparison because I think that personality-wise, like these people are incredibly obsessed with being the best at their craft, right? And that obsession at being at the top, it's a gigantic challenge. And for you to be thinking like, I'm in that mindset, I want to become one of the best, it must have been like a super rare experience for you.
At least in my own words, I'd never been like amazing at anything. I could do a lot of different things. I can do a lot of different things. I wouldn't say that I'm gifted at any of the things that I do. When I got into grinding StarCraft, I didn't expect to get better at it as quickly as I did. I kind of looked at it like, if I'm able to improve this much, if I can go from gold to masters in 1 year, which is what I did, it took me 6 months from gold league to get masters in SC2, then why should I tell myself that I can't continue to improve faster than other players? And I was very wrong on this. It took me a really long time to get grandmaster. It took me like 3 more years to get it. What a grind, what a struggle. But yeah, it wouldn't have happened. None of it would have happened with the casting or the streaming if I hadn't convinced myself that I could do it, though.
Right.
Like trying to make that happen was the only reason why the other stuff happened.
It's like this gigantic freaking challenge that you're setting up for yourself for.
It was really fun though. It was really fun trying to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit, like, what were your kind of goals in the middle? Like, what was your strategy to become a pro gamer?
Honestly, at that time, I was putting myself through university, and I came from a really poor off background. We weren't a wealthy family by any means. Like I got the maximum in the federal student aid and stuff, but I didn't really have any financial support coming in from my family. So for me, it was I would wake up. I tried to take all my classes really early in the morning, and then at like mid afternoon, I had a job at the IT help desk at Penn State. So I just basically set up Wi-Fi and fixed old people's computers all day. I had two other jobs that I was doing at the time. I was working with the student board for like planning out things for people who were like getting into like drunk incidents and hurting themselves. And I was also on the green board for the university, which was actually the one that I was on was a paid position, which was just we were just figuring out ways to make it not boring to recycle, the lifelong struggle of every activist. So I would be doing that. I would spend my whole day doing that. I'd have my mock trial practice, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to stream at least 4 hours through the middle of the night. And I would usually go till like, like 2, 3 in the morning. I would save my meal times for before I played so that I would be able to play in the best condition. Um, and yeah, skip a meal so I could get an energy drink off my meal plan type deal, and just play in my dorm in the middle of the night while my roommate's like, "I believe in your dreams, buddy. I'm gonna go to bed." And then you put headphones on and fall asleep.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that was a day in the life. And honestly, some crazy supportive people came to my channel as I was streaming, even before people knew who I was. And those people and their support are really the only reason why I was able to make it. So I just figured if I kept at it, an opportunity would come.
Nice. Dude, that's insane that you were working so hard to just be able to stream 4 hours a day in the middle of the night. And how
And I
how
still
many?
couldn't pay my tuition at the end of the day with all of that.
Right, and but you were you were trying to get all of this income to just pay your tuition, right?
Just to survive, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a small philosophical question. Like now that obviously now you've come like far from that. What would you tell yourself like at the beginning to make those times a little easier, like either mentally or emotionally?
I don't think I could have made it where I am now if it hadn't been as difficult as it was, honestly.
Hmm.
And I know it's a cliche thing, but I'm very happy with the direction that things went, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So if I had a chance to go back in time, I probably wouldn't talk to myself about anything career related. Maybe more about I don't know, I guess some of my confidence issues probably about that,
Hmm.
Try to tell myself that things are gonna work out if I stick with it, but I don't want a butterfly effect. I don't want to undo everything on accident.
Right. I got you. I got you. Were your parents at all supportive for this? Like, what were they thinking at the time? Because if I see, I don't know, if my future self sees my son like barely surviving, trying to make ends meet, and also at the same time chase his dreams, that is like a gigantic freaking challenge for everybody. Like, I would be a little worried. What was the experience that you got from them?
My whole life, basically, it had been just, me and my dad and my brothers. And my dad, he was skeptical. He didn't really understand what it was about, but he's always been tremendously supportive. And he knew how much I loved the game, how much it meant to me. He went with me when I got StarCraft 2 Collector's Edition the night it came out. And we were super broke. Like my dad saved up money on the side to get that for me because of how important he knew it was for me. And when I was telling him what I was doing, he was like, "Look, as long as you have a plan, as long as you're still working on things in your life outside of this in case it doesn't happen." He's like, I'm here for you. I want you to make it work." And when eventually I couldn't pay for school anymore and I had to leave, he supported me in doing my pro league casts that I initially got known for. We were still really not in a great place, but he splurged on getting good internet just so I could stream. And he's like, look, it's like, I can give you at least until like summer that we can try to make this happen. And then we got to try to reevaluate, well, what we're doing with our time here, whether we think this is going to work or not. So he was actually really supportive of me. He just, he was like, look, you got 6 months to prove to yourself that this can be something, basically.
Wow, dude. Wow.
It's crazy.
That
It's
is
crazy.
crazy.
But yeah, he would always tell me the same thing. Like that's what his father wanted for him when they left the Soviet Union and came to America. The whole point is for you guys to be able to find your happiness and make a life for yourself. So he's always had my back, and I love him for that.
Wow, dude, that sounds amazing. That sounds like your dad was incredibly supportive of your dreams. That's awesome that your dad was there for you and that he actually gave you the opportunity, because I think that's a huge leg to stand on, to be able to just go for it, just having the support of your family.
It was a huge risk for him. It was just, I called him out of the blue. The day that I got the phone call that I was going to be top 4 for the IPL caster competition, and they're like, hey, come out to Vegas. You might become a full-time Starcraft caster. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. It was the same day I got the email from Penn State where they're like, hey, you haven't made a payment on your tuition. You owe us like $700. We're going to cancel your schedule. And I'm like, that's it. That's how broke I was. Like, I couldn't pull together that much. I had absolutely nothing. And I called my dad and I'm just like, hey, I need you to come pick me up. I have a plan. I said, but there's no way that it's going to work if I'm here right now, because I was the apartment that I was living in at that time. I think the upload was 0.8. So not a good time for the stream. Yeah. And then that was a big turning point for everything.
So before we go into the IPL casting competition, if that hadn't show up, what do you think you would have been doing?
Bro, I got no clue. And I have absolutely no clue. And the thing is, at the end of the day, the IPL caster search, it actually didn't really do it for me either,
This is an IGN sponsored competition for casters, right? At the time.
Yeah, at the time, those guys were running like a league, right? They had IPL events, IPTL. I mean, IPTL was one of like the premier Starcraft events at the time. Anybody that was watching Starcraft was watching. I was at that crappy apartment, and we were watching that, and they just showed an advertisement like in between the games, and they're just like, "Hey, do you want to be a caster? We're taking applications today." At which point, I'm like, "Yo, that looks cool." And then my 2 roommates, who were a part of the Penn State Starcraft team. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work out. What are you talking about? You think you could be a caster? It's like you're still just diamond or whatever. And I was like, I'm masters now, okay? I'm master league now. I can commentate the game. That was the whole trip, because it basically just amounted to I downloaded a replay off their website, and they're like, yeah, just cast it and upload it and email it to us as a private link on YouTube. Okay. Just see what happens kind of thing. And they ended up liking it. What was really crazy about that was I found out that I had gotten through the first round of the applicants while I was at MLG Dallas. The people that were watching me and supporting me were like, we'll help you get to MLG Dallas. Someone that lived nearby actually drove over and picked me up so that we could go to the airport and fly down to Dallas. Right after I had gotten eliminated from the event is when I got the email that's like, hey, you made top 60. We need you to send in another cast tonight. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in Dallas. I ended up going to a stranger's hotel room because he was someone that a bunch of people that I knew. Oh, he's got an Alienware laptop. So we'll all just grab beers and go to his. And I'm like, guys, I'm 18. And they're like, okay, so we'll all just grab beers and go somewhere else. And you can go there and do your cast. And it was terrible because the replay that they had was, and it's like this 30-minute long game that ends with like roach drops being used. And it was just like insane. But it bugged out like halfway through because it was a 30-minute replay, and this guy's solid state drive didn't actually have enough space to do it. So I had to redo the whole thing and like download XSplit just so I could record it in 480p so the file size would be small enough. Yeah, some ratchet shit. And then I sent that up and I was like, okay, I'm finally free. I have no idea where I am. This room is very dark. I'm glad this man did not come in here and kill me while I was doing this.
That's an awesome story, first of all. I just want to touch on the fact that your community was incredibly supportive, dude.
I couldn't believe it. It was a very weird time for me, but up to the point of that competition, and the reason why I could go out and do these things people were helping me get to events. I got fired from my health desk job because my boss thought I was on drugs. Because I would like have insane reasons for why I wasn't in town, like to take other people's shifts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I called off work and he's like, well, where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm in Manhattan. I'm getting breakfast tacos with a friend that I made on the internet. And he's like, and Maximus Black is here. I was there with like Panic Switch and Maximus Black. It was my birthday. It was February 25th, which, so just for anybody that doesn't know, state patties, it's the last weekend of February and everybody gets absolutely just messed up. The whole place devolves into chaos and debauchery. He's like, yeah, you clocked out for today. He's like, what happened? You in a ditch somewhere? I'm like, I'm in Manhattan. It's my birthday. I'm like, I'm getting breakfast with some friends. He's like, this is the most he's like, that's the most BS thing I've ever heard. He's like, don't come back. I don't know what to tell you. My Korean teacher was fine with it because I was practicing my Korean with all these people that I met at the event. So, but they were really supportive. And I was talking about how I'm like, I don't know how bad the internet is at this apartment. I didn't know it was going to be this bad. I didn't know how I was going to be able to stream. I still streamed an insane amount, and it was the worst quality Twitch stream you've ever seen. There was a guy who asked me how much I had to pay in rent because I was like, guys, I need to get a job. Like, I can't stream. I need to like get a job at like the Burger King or something down the street. And this one guy's like, well, how much do you own rent? And I was like, it was like, for me at that time, it was like $200 a month. He's like, okay. He's like, here. He's like, you should be good for the rest of the year. And this guy just sent me like $1,200. He's like, don't give up on what you're doing. That guy's username was CK Darby. If he ever sees this, love you, dude.
Damn.
He never asked me for anything in return ever. He was just a super cool guy. He's someone that hasn't come around my stream in years, but you know, you don't forget people like that because it was the only reason that I was able to stream. That's how I was able to put that time in to do all the IPL stuff and go to the events because I didn't have to take a job there just from the kindness of strangers on the internet. Unbelievable, really.
What do you think you brought to the table that was making them, you know, do this kind of generosity or philanthropy?
I think people believed in what I was trying to do. I think that the energy that I had for what I really wanted to do was something that other people could see, you know, and I think that ended up kind of being a part of my commentary as well, was a lot of energy. I really wanted to succeed at it. You know, I don't think this is a good thing for normal people to base their life decisions off of. So I'm going to preface this with that. But for me, I didn't have a tremendous amount of other options for things that I could do or wanted to do in my life. I didn't have any connections or relatives with money or anything like that. Like nobody was going to have my back at any point if I screwed up. So I had like this insane drive that I was like, I am going to bust my ass and put in insane hours and not give up and keep a positive attitude about stuff, which I think that's what people fed off of. And I did a really good job of that. I couldn't possibly understand what drives somebody who has the means to do something like that for someone else. I couldn't possibly understand why they did it for me, but I'll be thanking my lucky stars for the rest of my days. The biggest moment that clicked was when I got the call about top 4. And they're like, you're going to Vegas. We're bringing you to an event. You are going to be able to meet people that could change your life forever, face to face. As soon as that happened, since I'd already gotten the email about, hey, you're too broke to go to school anymore, that was it. You know, like I couldn't, every single moment of every single day from that point forward had to be trying to make this happen, because if I didn't make it happen, I don't like to think about that, honestly. You know, I made it. I was very lucky. Whew. I also worked really hard, but yeah, no, I have never looked back. Nah, not once.
Dude, you were fighting for your life. At what point did you realize that casting was actually a path?
When I went to do IPL 5, like I thought it was going to be this big thing that would change everything. I thought I was going to get to cast a match on the main stage with like, you know, Apollo or something. You know, Apollo was there. Total Biscuit was there. I got to do my tour with them, with those guys. I was just the awkward guy, quiet in the back. It was Apollo and Total Biscuit were the only other casters there that introduced themselves to me, because they're like, oh, who's the awkward guy that looks like he's terrified over here? Just 19-year-old me. I'd never been in Vegas before. Everybody's telling me I'm not allowed to go through any doors or walk off the carpet because I'm not 21. That event was fun, but I mean, the cast that I ended up doing was like on like the D stream. Nobody really watched it. There was like a voting thing, but because they were asking me all these questions, like, have you looked into the cost of living in San Francisco? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm like, look, you guys just told me that you're gonna give me a job and help me figure this shit out if I won. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'm just trying to make this happen. I don't really know what I'm doing. And they're like, well, we'd love to hire you for our next event, but we can't just do this right now because it's gonna end up being a whole lot more work than whatever. And the other guy that won, that got the job, amazing human being, Tim Frazier, Robin, Sir Robin was his
Oh,
casting name,
yeah.
I think. Yeah, and he ended up being fantastic on IPL. He went to Blizzard. He helped work on Starcraft, Heroes of the Storm, and now he's a streamer. Super cool guy. Like, I got nothing against him for that. But that event, like at the end of it, like nothing really presented itself opportunity wise for me. I was motivated to cast because I got invited to do IPL 6, but IPL 6 got canceled because that company went under and completely dissolved in the next 2 months. So
Right.
unfortunately, that didn't end up happening. It had to be when I was like, there has to be something that I can cast. There has to be something I can do. I've got like 10-year-old emails with like Carmack and Red Eye and everybody where I'm like, hey, if I can do this or that, and it's MLG Sundance and all that. And the best I got was, if you want to drive yourself up to New York and observe for free, as awful as an offer that is, even if I was dumb enough to take it, I didn't have enough money to do it. I was literally broke. I had absolutely nothing. I was sharing my dad's 1-bedroom apartment with my younger brother, who is just graduating high school. I had my computer set up in the kitchen and I just slept on the floor next to it. I was just doing streaming like 10 plus hours a day from there. But the big thing that catalyzed a lot of it was when people were complaining about Pro League. And I didn't really want to try to put anybody down, but I was pretty sure it was my only real opportunity to show more people that I could cast, since everybody didn't like the casters they had. And that was when I started doing my audio only Pro League cast that you could put over the main stream. And I put a little clock there so you could synchronize it. It was really easy to make Twitch streams run at the same time back then. Yeah, that was the big thing that really got things moving for me.
Wow. So this was on your own. You were just casting basically for no audience. You're saying if you want to listen to this cast, you can put it up next to the video.
I was talking to the people that would normally watch me play, and I was like, hey, if you guys want to post this somewhere, that would be huge. I know a lot of people don't like the normal cast, and I don't want to say anything bad about those folks, but if you want to watch an alternative, if you want to get alternative audio, you can come here. And at the very least, I was going to bring energy, excitement, and clear pronunciation. And at that point, I had a decent amount of knowledge about the game. That was the first time that I went from like 50 viewers, which is where I was averaging at that time about, to, and I got like 800 people because Flash was playing in Pro League and I was just talking about him playing on this Neo Arkanoid map where there's 700 layers of rocks between all the players. And
how long did you think you were casting by that time?
that was actually the first time I really casted on my own channel. I had done a couple of our collegiate Star League matches prior, but I had never taken casting super seriously until the IPL casters surge. Yeah, so it was probably just a few months really that I was really digging into just the commentary stuff. And then once I had gotten known from that, it was as simple as like, once I messaged somebody then about casting their online cup, they're like, "Oh, you're the Pro League guy." Yeah, sure. How bad could it be? That was how I survived the next couple of months until I got the first big job offer, and that was really what changed everything after that.
This is the events that led you to actually cast DreamHack. How did that happen? And how did you feel after all of that time?
I can't describe it. So the Pro League thing ended up going really, really, really well, naturally. Like, I had my moment. People thought I was cool. They're like, "Oh, here's this random guy." Idra on State of the Game is like, "Oh yeah, the guy with the belt around his head." I reached out to.
He used to have
I wear the headband every day. So I was reaching out to like small leagues. I was doing the Russian Star League. I was doing Ritmix RSL. Todd was like, "Hey, you should cast this. You should cast this because I'm bored." He's like, "I can't." He's like, "This is too much. There's too many games." So I became the official RSL caster. I solo casted like hundreds of games over the next few months. So that January to March was me doing RSL, WCS Challenger. I did WCS Challenger for Europe and NA. I like got to B stream level for those. And at the same time for that, I also got hired to do the Acer Team Story Cup. So I was casting 3 leagues and I was probably live like 18 hours a day at this point in time because none of these tournaments actually conflicted with each other. So I would wake up at like 2 a.m. I would cast Pro League. And then as Pro League was ending, Acer Team Story Cup would start. And then RSL would happen right after that. and then like WCS Challenger. I was doing crazy, crazy hours with all that. My life kind of turned into a blur.
And
And
you're putting
it
so
ended.
much energy into these casts as
Yeah,
well.
I was killing myself. It was people love to reference the good old days. I'm like, this was the most difficult part of my whole entire life. At no
Hmm.
point have I felt as, as alone or stressed. And I still made it happen. I still did it, but God, it was terrible, really. And then one morning I woke up and I just had a blip on my Skype. Yeah, that was when I got reached out to by Health. All I saw was a message just like, "Hey, Hellspawn here from DreamHack. We like your commentary that you've been doing the last few months, and we want to know if you want to do DreamHack Summer in a month and a half. We'll get you a hotel, a flight, and we'll pay you a little bit of money." I woke up, I freaked out, like I thought I was having a heart attack or I was asleep or something like that. I ran over to my dad. I'm like, it's happening, it's happening. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, oh my God, dude, like this is it. I might actually be getting out of this nightmare. Like, holy shit. Like I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Speaking of crazy things, 2 weeks before this happened, one of my supporters that had, for some crazy reason or another, done so much to try and help me make this dream a reality, had actually separately been like, "Hey, you should get a passport because all these events are in Europe, and you don't know if that's going to happen." And I was like, "Well, I don't have any money." I'm like, I don't know. This is like a hard thing to do. At that point, like every dollar I got, I was just giving to my dad for rent or for the bills. And yeah, so this guy just paid me to go get my passport within a week of that happening.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
they're just like, "Hey, yeah, can you come to Sweden in a month?" And I was like, "Holy shit, Sweden?" I'm like, "Do they drive on the?" I'm like, I thought they drove on the other side of the roads and stuff. Like, that was just insane because once I did that event, I was getting a lot of viewers doing B streams for IEM Katowice. When we did the Heart of the Swarm beta, they Blizzard actually sent me like a special version of the client that would work on the remote server, and I did that first event with Apollo and In Control, and that
Mm.
was that was how I met those guys, and we hung out the whole entire time, and it was surreal. It was surreal. The guys that I watched on TV every single day, I was just having a beer with them all of a sudden because it was legal for me to have a beer at 20 years old at this point. I was like, "Oh my God, this is insane. I'm not being arrested." They're like, "No, not all of us are imbeciles like the people in your country, Nathanias." And I'm like, "Damn it, Apollo." Even when he's insulting me, that voice is too high.
Oh man, I love the polo, man.
But he's running everything now. All the Starcraft stuff that's happening now, he's actually he's
S-
actually the mastermind. He's in charge of IEM basically behind the scenes.
Oh,
So
that's
IEM
awesome.
Katowice for the last like 2 years. We've had some really cool stuff. That's because of Apollo. He's the guy that's going between ESL and Blizzard. He's the guy that's fighting for us in the meetings to not have our budgets cut. Yeah, they did a really good job with getting all of us a lot of work last year when events got canceled so that we would be okay too. But yeah.
So, did you end up going to Korea to cast at some point?
It took me forever to get to Korea. Somehow none of those events ever ended up working out. I had a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of minor beef with some Blizzard folks back in the day behind the scenes around this sort of thing because I would be like, hey, guys, I'd really like to do GSL versus the world this year. It would really mean a lot to me. I've never been to Korea. I would love to go there and get to commentate these guys because I'd only ever done it in online leagues or at like a lower round match in BlizzCon because eventually I was doing BlizzCons, but I'd still never been to Korea. But those, yeah, it was kind of awkward because I got like sometimes it would be like, hey, well, if you do this event and you do this, or then we'll give you this, and then I would do that event, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, we can't hire you for this. Sorry, I'm like, I'm not even that far from Korea. Just let me do one damn event. Damn.
Do you have people that you admired as casters that you were like, "Oh, they're so good. I'm inspired by them."
I didn't try to ever take mannerisms from other commentators. There were a few that I looked up to for their energy and their ability to never get rattled on camera, which I think is a very important skill to learn. When you're in the middle of a match and the screen goes blank, right? And you don't know why the screen has gone blank. You don't know if the stream is down. You don't know if it's just the screen they put in front of you died for no reason. You have no idea. All you know is that your microphone could still be on and people watching might be able to see what's happening and they might not. When I think about commentary, I'm like, as long as I can handle that situation and either talk through what could be happening, obviously, you acknowledge, hey, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty here. Guys like that could just always like roll things off their shoulders. Like I thought Tasteless was a pro at that,
Mm-hmm.
a master of killing downtime. I wanted to be able to be one of those guys.
Now it's been like 10 years. Right now we're talking about
Yeah.
a story that probably like 8 years old, and
Yeah, exactly.
you've made it. You've made a name for yourself. What do you think about your life now? Do you still have a passion for the job, for casting games?
I do. Casting over the years it was a big build up, it was a big ramp up, right? Like those old stories was kind of getting started. And then I got into it and it was a lot of fun. I was always trying to think like, how can I do more? How can I be better at what I'm doing? How can I improve what I'm doing? First goal for me there was, well, obviously I was like, I want to hit top 200. I want to be grandmaster. I want to be able to really back up what I'm saying with, a huge wealth of experience and knowledge. And it's kind of interesting because towards the later end, I was really motivated to keep working. This would have been like 2014, 2015. And I would go up to the head of esports at Blizzard and I'd be like, hey, what do I have to do to improve so that you guys would consider me for like a BlizzCon final? Like, where's the bar? Like, where are the holes in my game that you guys are like, Nathanias isn't like a BlizzCon finals caster? I got told straight up, well, I'm going to be honest, Nate, there's nothing you're ever going to do that's going to put you over Tastosis. Nobody's ever going to feel that way about you. So you should just go do something else. Like you should work on another game. I didn't like hearing that from somebody that I was working for that I respected. I knew it was true. And I have nothing bad to say about either of them, right? That's not their fault that they're amazing at their jobs and they've been around and doing it for a lot longer than I have. But for me personally, I never want to let go on the gas. If I wasn't trying to improve or do better, then I felt like I was doing a bad job. So I kind of got stuck in a rut with that. And over the last few years, I've been doing a lot of commentary for other games. I want to always be working to improve myself and be better at whatever I'm doing. It's been a journey to do that. But that's, a little bit of my jadedness with StarCraft, I think, came from that. At that point, the StarCraft thing was like, yeah, I'm doing it as a job. I can't take it anywhere because those opportunities aren't going to come up unless those guys get sick, right? And I'm never going to wish anything like that on them. They're amazing humans. I've had so many wonderful evenings blackout drunk with Tasteless and Artosis. I would never wish anything bad on them at all. I just want to be as good as them because they're awesome at what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that kind of brought us to the last few years where I've just been doing all sorts of stuff.
Have you ever had a conversation like that with them, like with Artosis and Tasteless, instead of with like your boss at Blizzard?
Talking to them about being better and whatnot. Yeah, no, as casters, that's those the most important conversations that we have. We make fun of each other a little bit behind the scenes, but most of the time we poke at things where it's like, if someone says a certain phrase too much on air, we'll give little jabs. We'll be like, hey, you got to be careful, about mixing it up. We really bullied Pig on that. And I think he became a much better caster because of it. Because when he was coming up, he had a couple of like phrases that he would lean on and done and dusted for Caleres. And he's like, you don't know how much of a point I make of never saying that around you assholes.
Some of my other favorite casters, like Wolf, for example, he transitioned to Overwatch.
Blizzard was very weird about this stuff. They didn't like the idea of people having power over them when it came to talent negotiations or contracts, especially in the later years when I was trying to get more, when I'm like, hey, I'm trying to do this, I'm doing that, I'm doing all this hosting roles, and I would come at them with something as basic as like, for the next year of events, I'd like to make 10% more. Can we make that happen? How do we do that? What do I need to do for, to get a bump in what I'm going to get paid? I did the first NA Heroes of the Storm event. I did the first one. They basically sprung it on me like 5 days prior, and they handed me a binder with notes on all of the heroes and stuff in the game. We go do this event. It was like fun, but I didn't really have, in my opinion, enough time to really properly prep for it and try to learn the game. 5 days is not a lot. Blizzard's just kind of weird about things like this, and they're like, well, hey, we don't want you to ever do StarCraft again if you're doing heroes. They're like, we want you to drop that event, do this event, and only do heroes forever and never do SC2 again. I would have been out of a job a couple years ago, right, if I had taken that deal. Stuff like that is tough because going inside Blizzard, they were very opposed to having people do multiple games. I had good conversations with the Overwatch team guys early on. I played a lot of their beta. I met the whole dev team really early on in development. They were a bunch of really cool folks. I had great conversations with them, expressed my interest in all the esports. I want to do something new because you guys told me I can't go any higher with StarCraft. You guys are never going to give me any more opportunities than I'm already getting. And I want to be better. I want to do more, and I want to take on a greater responsibility. This was probably the moment where I became the salty guy in StarCraft, but I got hit with the get new quality talent for Starcraft events, but we have a lot of people that want to cast Overwatch, so we can't have you do that game because we need you doing Starcraft, or we won't have enough good, decent casters. So it kind of
Yeah.
turned into this like, we're not going to give you any more than you have right now, but we're going to give you at least this. Like if you can be. So I kind of became like a warm body at Starcraft events, is what it felt like to me. You know, I was like, well, I don't know. They just have me here because I've been doing it forever now. Like even if I wasn't playing this game or watching anything, I'd probably still get hired, and that it bothered me a lot to think about that. I
Mm.
still play the game. I still watch the events. I never stopped, especially in that time. It just pissed me off a lot. But that's why I never ended up doing any of that stuff, because I had great conversations with them, and then once it got to the esports team, once it got to the decision making people, things just never really worked out. So I started getting into other game scenes, things like Twitch Rivals and whatnot. I've been doing tons of shows for the last couple of years. I've been doing every PAX. I've done like every PAX since like 2018. Because for me, it's like if I bring the energy, people love that. And I'm like, okay, well, at that point, then I just try to study and try to give good commentary. And, if I can't make somebody laugh, at least try to inspire or educate them.
Hmm. That's a very interesting inside perspective on the commentary and casting for all these esports, right? Because even now, I think I've seen a lot of casters fall off from Overwatch. I was very big into the game like a couple of years ago, and the casting crew just got smaller and smaller, like over the years for Overwatch League.
I think people in general have seen the direction that Blizzard's taken the last few years. They're more interested in making money than delivering finished quality products. And I wish that wasn't the case. If they want
Mm,
to prove me wrong, they could finish Warcraft remastered or Starcraft remastered. Those games are both still missing features that were promised. And there's people who are big fans of those franchises that are, they're upset that they feel like they've been cast aside. Starcraft, people feel the same way.
right.
They didn't even let us know, hey, we're going to update the maps, by the way. All it would have taken was 2 seconds, to approve a PR message where a guy just tweets new maps in 10 days, right? Like there's very little information you're giving away with something like that. And I think that people see the lack of effort. And
Right.
it's the same thing that ended up happening. Like Overwatch League casting, a bunch of those guys loved it. You had people like, I think Monte Cristo like bought a house in
You're right.
LA near the studio so that they could just go there and bang it out back and forth. Blizzard, they wanted to do a lot with it. They said they were gonna. I think when they announced it, they're like, yeah, we're gonna be one of the top esports companies within 5 years with over OWL.
Yeah.
But then you've cut every single big talent that you've signed after promising them a long career, and I think those kinds of things make big talent less interested in working with them because of
For
false
sure.
promises,
For
but
sure.
also they're incredibly picky with who they bring on. Even
Mm.
despite all of that, I would love for nothing more than for them to step up and be the company that they used to be.
Yeah, this is where I don't know enough. I'm not good enough of a journalist to actually, look into what's going on. But from an outsider's perspective, you can see that maybe when Activision was like became like brought on board, a lot of people were dissatisfied with how they were working in the development team, and potentially one of the reasons why Mike Morhaime left the company as well.
Yeah, I think that
Um,
was a big part of it too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like moving on, like with the future of RTS games and real time strategy games. Like StarCraft's been it's been juiced long enough. It's but like me as a player, I'm craving like a new RTS game that like will change the industry. And the rumors are that there's this company called Frost Giants that are creating this next game. Are you at all like in the behind the scenes of the development team with them?
The Frost Giant guys, first and foremost, they pretty much all the people on top of that are the best people, in my opinion, that worked on StarCraft 2. A lot of people laid really good infrastructure and groundwork, and that was awesome. But I really think that as far as like trying to tune it and really pay attention to what the players were talking about complaint wise, it was guys like Tim Morton that got the Swarm host thing fixed and the Raven PDD spam thing fixed. Monk, who helped make co-op. I mean, I love StarCraft 2 co-op. I think it's one of the deepest gameplay modes in any game I've ever played. There's so much that you can do. There's so much that you can unlock and mess around with. It really is just a great feature of StarCraft. I think it was like the most popular mode in the game when Legacy of the Void came out. And as far as I know, it probably still is. So the folks that are behind it are fantastic. And that was the only reason why I answered the phone when they called me. Obviously, I don't have any secrets or anything that I'm going to be spilling about their process, but I have full faith in those guys. And I'm on the same boat as you. I can't wait for the next big RTS. That's what I want. And I love StarCraft 2. I'll happily play StarCraft 2 until that game comes out. I like change. I like when new things come out. I love seeing what we can do with technology. I want to see an RTS that comes out and has all the things that I love about RTS as it is, but with a change that I've never thought of before, that wasn't possible, that makes the game more interesting without taking away the magic, right? Of what it feels like to build the base and an army and overwhelm somebody with strategy and positioning and micro. And I love everything that I've seen from them internally. They have an amazing group of people that are working on that project, and
I hope that it blows people's minds. How long do you think that'll take? Like, it's maybe another year, maybe another 2 years.
I'm gonna if I was
Dude.
everybody, a lot of people have been asking me this. I would hate to do the disservice of them
Right.
to be dishonest, but it's a Herculean feat. Their priorities since they announced the game have been to work on their ground rules for the universe of the game and the mechanics and what direction that they want to take it in, because building an RTS engine is a giant, colossal pain in the ass. And that is actually, I would say, probably the main reason why there isn't going to be the work, the technological side. And people love making fun of StarCraft's engine and be like, oh, yeah, but it's 2 cores. But I'm like, the technology behind, like, StarCraft games don't desync. You don't have rubber banding. Everything that happens in the game is always actually happening, which you can't say for a lot of multiplayer games. People's number one thing to complain about is like tick rates and being like, oh, well, lag compensation, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have shot me. You don't have to worry about any of that shit in StarCraft. It's a technological masterpiece that it was, they started making it in like 2005. It cost them an insane amount of money to make that engine. So many people worked on it, and it's all spaghetti code now. Like they can't really even do too much with it. Like this game is years away. I would say at least 2 years before we're seeing like live gameplay footage. Maybe we get demo gameplay footage from an early engine build in like a year. I don't know. But if someone put a gun to my head and was like, Nate, honestly, when do you think this game comes out? I'd guess best case scenario, 2025, maybe 2024 for lucky. I don't know.
It's like one of those things, but these guys are freaking artists. They're not just coders and technology, nerds. They put their heart and soul into this, and it becomes a masterpiece. And that's one of the things about games that I feel like people have a hard time understanding. It's a conglomerate and a collaboration of all these amazing mediums that are coming together. It's film, storytelling, art and illustration, programming, engine building, and it's really, really hard. And the public's like, when's the next game coming? And like they almost like don't understand this. It's very hard to even picture what these guys are doing. How big is that company? I have no like real perspective on Frost Giants.
They've got a decent sized team. I don't have the exact numbers even on that, but I know at least all the top dev guys on from StarCraft are there. They actually picked up one of their engine guys in the last month. That was a big announcement for them, and an art guy. But yeah, like this, it really is. It's just the scope. That's the whole start of it for them, is just setting the scope. Like, how big is the universe of the game supposed to be? Is it factions of people fighting against each other? Is it going to be people versus aliens? Is it just aliens? And these are all really broad questions, but you can't really start making the game until you answer that. You can't decide what kind of units you're going to make or what kind of maps you're going to have. The art team on that side of it has been like just, and this funny example. I think they showed their pathing thing recently somewhere public. I'm not 100% sure, but internally, like they showed us like a conceptual thing that we got to look at, and there were no graphics on it at all. It was just a bunch of circles moving around, because they're like, yes, well, there's a huge amount of work that has to go into us deciding what this is going to look like and what the universe is going to be. The only thing we can do is try to build the very base level. They're just trying to get the bedrock set down so that they can be like, okay, well, at the very least, we can make units that move, and we don't have to decide what else those units do yet, because we're still figuring that out, right? So that's what really makes RTS hard, I think, because other games don't have to do that. They can use easier net code and whatnot. But having a smooth multiplayer experience is one of the biggest reasons why StarCraft 2 is still as good as it is,
Right.
because frankly speaking, they nailed it with that.
Yeah, it is actually amazing now that you point it out. And I think about it, it is actually amazing. I play a game. I don't know if you've I don't know if you've played FPS at all. I've gotten into Escape from Tarkov, and that
Oh
game's
yeah, yeah.
amazing. But the freaking netcode of the game is just terrible.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. It just makes the experience so much less than it could be. Nate, thank you so much for telling me all these things. I guess we can start wrapping it up, but I wanted to ask you, what do you think like StarCraft as a game like has brought into your life? I think, when you're growing up playing it, one of the things that you wish, like I wish that StarCraft was in some ways like this secret government experiment that somehow is like it's training human beings to command this
I get to
inevitable
plug in.
war.
I'm gonna plug my Neuralink in and control soldiers remotely and shit in the future. When 60-year-old Nathanias is actually my brain's gonna get put in a jar. I'm gonna live inside an AI and just run shit. Who knows? Maybe. Hey, you never know. You never know. Could be my dedicated NSA agent watching me right now is like, yeah, that's right. In 40 years, you're gonna be in a jar, man. Who knows? Could still be a government experiment. But StarCraft has brought so much to my life, and I've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But the biggest thing about it is that I've shared every real milestone of my life with through StarCraft, and it brought me and my dad close together when I was very young. And it was a great way for me to connect with him. And then it was what held my group of friends together. We all played StarCraft, and then it was it was the door for me out of a really difficult life. And I mean, I don't know, maybe I would have just ended up having to go home and take my friend's job offer to work. He was a manager at a dump, and maybe I would have just been picking up garbage off the fence and making sure it didn't get out. Maybe if Panic Switched or CK Darby didn't send me to those events, everything could be different. Maybe I'm in a better place somehow. Maybe I'm in a worse place, but I can't describe the amount of emotions that I felt playing the game, traveling the world to meet people, just getting to see everybody else's passion for the game is really what gets me excited more than anything. Is just going to an event and seeing crowds of people that are screaming about the same thing that you also love. And there's really nothing that lights a fire. There's nothing that lights a fire in here more than that, is seeing how excited everybody else gets about it.
Right. Yeah, I think that speaks to the fact that gaming has become such a cultural, you know, a cultural consumption of things that it's not just a game. It kind of is like a sport in a way, and there's a reason why they call it esports. But when soccer was created, people were just trying to have fun, I guess, right? Or when football was created, people were just trying to have fun, and they never imagined that this thing would absorb like thousands of viewers. We would create stadiums around it, and all of a sudden, like these players that were just at the beginning like hobbyists who trying to have fun became gaming stars to us in the community. Just just praise them. It's kind of a unexpected miracle.
There's a whole lot of crazy stuff that I don't think anybody could have predicted would happen when the internet started. And I know that there was a lot of craziness with that. I don't know how old you are. I'm 28. So when I was a little kid, I didn't know about this .com stuff that was happening. I was born in 93. I didn't really perceive any of that. I don't remember any of it. But the fact that it's led to me being able to call a group of people who also like a video game that I like family is kind of it is a miracle. It's amazing. I've never had a lot of family in my life. I never had a lot of friends. I never had a support network of people who cared about me, and I found all of that through my passion for gaming and my passion for StarCraft. And that's a rare thing that you're going to find, something that you can really enjoy and love that much.
Nate, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate your storytelling, how much you've brought into this world for StarCraft, how much I appreciate your commentary. It's to to me it's very valuable because hearing your story, it also gives me fuel to just keep going. And obviously I kind of came in late to the scene and like started chasing my dreams a little bit later. Maybe my situations were more privileged, and I feel sort of lucky that I'm able to even do it, you know. So it gives me a lot of fuel, man. Thanks a lot for that. And I appreciate you, you know, making the time to be here, even on a Sunday.
I appreciate you reaching out, and I appreciate you, you know, trying to do something with your dreams, because I think the biggest difference between people that make it and people that don't, honestly, is really just doing everything that you can, really giving it your all. Obviously, there's some survivorship bias for me, but at the end of the day, you can't succeed unless you're willing to put your whole heart into something. And I think that holds true for a lot of passion projects, like, you know, like gaming. That's it. People see through fake stuff, you know, pretty easily. We have a nose for that sort of thing, and it's.
Well, if people want to find you and like they don't know who you are by any chance, like where do people find you and how do they watch you?
Well, I stream still on Twitch quite a bit. When events start coming up again, I'm sure I'll be all over the place again. Fingers crossed. It's very weird to have spent a year stuck in my apartment and not traveling all over the world, but that's just Nathanias on Twitch. And I post pictures of my golden retriever who interrupted our podcast a little bit earlier on my Twitter, just at Nathanias on Twitter as well.
Thank you so much again, dude. I can't appreciate you enough.
Cheers, man. It's been a good time. Thank you for having me on again.